Welcome to the world of science fiction. I am Adam, your narrator, where extraordinary tale come to life. Enjoy the journey. She was alone in the universe. Then a human's heroism changed everything. The terraforming pod hummed quietly as Finn Blackwood adjusted the atmospheric processors. 3 years into his solo mission, he'd grown accustomed to the silence of deep space, broken only by the occasional ping of his equipment and the soft whir of life support systems. His job was simple: prepare distant planets for human habitation, one atmosphere at a time. He never expected to find love among the stars. The anomaly appeared on his scanners just as he was preparing to enter cryo sleep. At first he thought it was a malfunction. The readings showed impossible energy signatures unlike anything he'd encountered before, but as he enhanced the image on his view screen, his breath caught in his throat. A ship, if you could call it that. It looked more like a living crystal, its translucent surface refracting starlight in mesmerizing patterns. It was damaged, hairline fractures spreading across its ethereal hull like frozen lightning. This is terraforming engineer Finn Blackwood of Earth Union Pod 247. He broadcast on all frequencies. Do you require assistance? The response came not in words but in pulses of light that danced across his pod sensors. His computer struggled to interpret the signals before finally translating them into a simple message. Help. Finn maneuvered his pod alongside the crystalline vessel, his heart racing as he prepared for first contact. The airlock cycled and he stepped through in his EVA suit, magnetic boots clicking against the strange surface beneath him. That's when he saw her. She emerged from within the crystal ship like a dream made manifest. Her form was humanoid but composed of what appeared to be living crystal, with swirling patterns of light flowing beneath her transparent skin. Where a human would have hair, she had streams of luminescent energy that floated around her head like a corona. Her eyes were pools of shifting colors that seemed to contain entire nebulae. I am NXS, she communicated, not through sound but through pulses of light that somehow formed words in his mind. Last survivor of the Luminara. Finn removed his helmet sensors, having confirmed the atmosphere was safe. You're injured, he said, noticing the dimming patterns within her crystalline form. My ship and I are one, she explained. As it fractures, so do I. The words carried a weight of sadness that transcended language. Without hesitation, Finn began analyzing the damage. His terraforming equipment wasn't designed for crystal-based technology, but the principles of energy distribution weren't so different from atmospheric manipulation. As he worked, NYX watched him with those cosmic eyes. Why do you help me, she asked. Your kind has never encountered mine. Finn's hands moved steadily across the fractures, using his atmospheric harmonizer to stabilize the crystal structure. Because you needed it, he said simply. Where I come from, that's enough. Hours passed as they worked together in silence, broken only by occasional questions about each other's worlds. NYX told him of her people, the Luminara, who had evolved from crystalline formations in the heart of the Andromeda galaxy. They were explorers seeking to understand the universe's infinite variations of life. As the last fracture sealed Nyx's form, brightened her internal light, pooling with renewed strength. You have saved more than just me, she said. You have saved thousands of years of gathered knowledge. Their eyes met, and in that moment something passed between them, a Recognition of kindred spirits despite their vastly different forms. Finn felt a connection he couldn't explain, as if the very atoms of his being were resonating with her crystalline frequency. Will you stay? He asked, surprising himself with the question. There's so much we could learn from each other. Nix's light patterns shifted in what he was beginning to recognize as contemplation. My mission was to study other forms of life, she said. Perhaps understanding your human concept of companionship would be valuable research. As they returned to his pod, Finn couldn't help but smile. Among all the wonders he'd seen in his years of terraforming, nothing compared to this moment. He'd found something far more precious than habitable planets. He'd found a connection that transcended the very boundaries of what he thought possible. The stars seemed to shine brighter as their two vessels drifted together in the vast expanse of space. A human pod and a crystal ship, their occupants embarking on an unexpected journey of discovery, understanding, and perhaps something more. Days aboard terraforming pod 247 took on a new rhythm with Nix's presence. Finn found himself captivated by the way she moved through the ship's corridors, her crystalline form casting prismatic patterns across the walls. She approached every human device with fascination, her light patterns shifting rapidly as she absorbed new information. Your technology is so physical, she observed one evening as they sat in the observation dome. Her form cast a soft glow across the reinforced glass, creating a dance of colors against the backdrop of stars. The Luminara craft are tools from thought and light. Finn adjusted the environmental controls, having learned that slight changes in temperature affected the clarity of her communications. Yet you seem intrigued by our crude machines, he said, smiling as she traced the control panel with luminescent fingers. There is beauty in solidity, she replied, her inner light pooling gently. Your kind builds with such determination. Despite your brief lifespans, each creation carries the weight of your dreams. The mention of lifespans made Finn's heart twist unexpectedly. How long do the Luminara live? He asked, trying to keep his voice casual. Nix's colors shifted to deeper blues. We exist until our light dims naturally, often after several of your millennia. She turned those cosmic eyes to him. Does this trouble you? No, he lied, then sighed. Yes, I suppose it does. She moved closer and he felt the familiar tingle of energy that accompanied her proximity. Time flows differently for my people. What matters is not the duration, but the intensity of the light we share. Their conversations often turned philosophical as they worked together on his terraforming projects. Nix's understanding of energy and matter offered new perspectives on atmospheric manipulation. Under her guidance, Finn discovered more efficient ways to stabilize planetary environments. One day, as they monitored a particularly challenging transformation, Nix suddenly dimmed something. Approaches, she said, her voice lights carrying an edge of concern. Finn checked his instruments but saw nothing. What is it? A void in the stars. My people call them the shadow makers, beings that consume light and energy. They are drawn to strong sources of both. Her form flickered like me. The gravity of her words hit him. Your ship. The damage wasn't an accident, was it? No. She admitted. I was pursued. I thought I had lost them in the nebula, but her light patterns became erratic. Finn, you must leave. Your god's energy signature is too weak to interest them, but if you stay near me. He stepped closer, ignoring the crackling energy between them. I'm Not leaving you. You don't understand. The shadow makers don't just destroy bodies. They consume consciousness, memories. Everything that makes a being what they are. Finn's mind raced through possibilities. His pod wasn't built for combat, but it was equipped with atmospheric dispersal systems. Your people craft with thought and life. He said slowly, could we craft a defense? Nyx's colors shifted to something he'd never seen before, a mixture of hope and fear. It would require a merging of our technologies. Our understanding. Such a thing has never been attempted between our species. Then we'll be the first, Finn said firmly. He pulled up the pod. Schematics on the main screen teach me about like crafting. We'll find a way. They worked through ship's night. Nyx sharing the fundamental of Luminara energy manipulation while Finn adapted his terraforming equipment. Their hands moved together over the controls, her light intertwining with the ship's systems in ways that defied his understanding of physics. As they worked, their consciousness seemed to blur at the edges. Finn began to sense her emotions as colors, while Nyx started to understand human intuition. It was more than just two beings working together. They were creating something entirely new. Your species feels so deeply, Nyx observed as they finished the modifications. Every emotion leaves traces in your energy pattern. Finn watched the swirling colors beneath her crystalline surface. And your species thinks with such clarity. Together we might actually have a chance. She reached out, her fingertips almost touching his chest. I begin to understand why my people never tried this before, to be this close to another form of consciousness. It changes you. Is that a bad thing? He asked softly. The colors within her swirled like aurora borealis. No, she whispered, it is terrifying and wonderful, like watching a star being born. As if in response to her words, the pod sensors began to wail. The shadow makers had found them. The void between stars darkened as the shadow makers approached through the pod's viewport. Finn watched as patches of space seemed to fold in on themselves, consuming light and matter alike. Beside him, Nyx's crystalline form pulsed with determination. They're trying to isolate us, she said, her light voice tight with tension, breaking our connection to the surrounding energy fields. Finn's hands flew over the modified controls. The merging of human and Luminara technology had transformed his simple terraforming pod into something extraordinary. Energy conduits now traced patterns similar to Nyx's internal light throughout the ship's hull. Then let's give them something to chase, he said, engaging the new systems they'd created together. The pod hummed with harmonized energy as Nyx merged her consciousness with the ship's matrix. What happened next defied human physics. Light bent around them in impossible ways, creating corridors of pure energy through space. The shadow makers recoiled, their void-like forms rippling with what might have been surprise. Your emotions, Nyx whispered, her form brightening. They strengthened the field. The shadow makers have never encountered anything like this. Finn felt it too. Every beat of his heart, every surge of protective instinct toward Nyx amplified the energy surrounding them. Their differences, once seeming insurmountable, had become their greatest strength. Tell me what you see, he said, trusting her perception of energy fields beyond human comprehension. They're confused. Your biological energy patterns interfere with their hunting instincts. Her colors shifted to deep indigo, but they're adapting. We need more. Without thinking, Finn reached out and placed his hand against her crystalline surface. The conch sent shivers of light Through both of them then let's show them what two species can do together. Their consciousness merged deeper than before Finn experienced reality through NX's perception, seeing the quantum dance of particles, feeling the pulse of stellar winds. In turn she felt the depth of human emotions, the complex interplay of heart and mind that drove their species to reach for the impossible. Together they were a tapestry of light and emotion that spread out from the pod and waves where it touched the shadow makers. Their void forms began to unravel, not destroyed but transformed. Their hunger for energy transmuted into something new. Their changing Nyx marveled, her inner light synchronizing with Finn's heartbeat. Your human capacity for transformation, it's affecting them at their core. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted hours. Gradually the shadow makers retreated. Their forms now shot through with threads of living light as the last one disappeared into the distance. Finn and Nyx remained connected, neither willing to break the profound link they'd forged. I never knew, she said softly, her thoughts flowing into his mind like starlight. My people speak of humans as brief, limited beings, but your limitations birth such beautiful possibilities. Finn smiled, still seeing traces of energy fields through her perception. And we thought crystalline beings couldn't feel deeply. I've never been so happy to be wrong. They drifted in comfortable silence. There merged consciousness, slowly separating but leaving behind an understanding that transcended physical forms. The pod systems gradually returned to normal, though now bearing permanent changes from their fusion of technologies. What happens now? Finn asked, finally voicing the question that hung between them. Your people need to know what we've discovered. She finished, this connection between us, it could change everything. The Luminara have always sought understanding of the universe, but we never imagined finding it through emotional bonds. Her form shifted close, light patterns swirling with new colors. Finn was beginning to recognize as affection. My mission was to study other forms of life, she said. I never expected to find one that would study me in return, that would see beyond my crystalline surface to the consciousness within. I never expected to fall in love with stardust. Finn replied softly, watching the way his words sent ripples of rose gold light through her form. Love, she tested the word, her light voice thoughtful, a human concept that defies logical analysis. Yet I find myself experiencing something similar, a resonance that goes beyond mere scientific curiosity. The pod systems pinged, reminding them of the next planet awaiting terraforming, but neither moved immediately to address it. They had discovered something far more fascinating than planetary transformation. They had found a way to transform themselves. Stay with me, Finn said, not as a question this time, not just for research, not just for science. Stay, because what we've created here is more remarkable than either of our species could have imagined. Alone, Nyx's response came not in words, but in a surge of light that enveloped them both, a silent promise more binding than any verbal agreement. As they set course for the next planet, the stars seemed to shine brighter, witnessing an impossible love that had rewritten the rules of both their worlds. The message from the Luminara Council arrived as Finn and NXS were completing their third planetary transformation. Together their combined techniques had revolutionized the terraforming process, creating atmospheres that pulsed with living light. They coming, Nyx said, her form dimming slightly as she processed The crystalline transmission a delegation of elders they've never left the Andromeda galaxy before Finn looked up from the atmospheric reading. Because of us, because of what we represent, her light patterns swirled. With anxiety the council has observed. Our work, our bond, they say it defies all known laws of consciousness. Integration. The pod sensors picked up the approaching Luminara vessel long before it became visible, a massive crystalline structure that made NX's ship look like a mere fragment in comparison. As it drew near, its surface rippled with patterns that Finn now